did we want? Oh, now we want to go to another form of
Trump's executive order.
Well, let's do that after we do the state stuff. This week, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, South Dakota joined 27 other states in precluding anti-BDS laws. BDS is a movement where people are boycotting,
Divesting and sanctioning
Israeli products, especially those made in illegal territories. So the whole point is that was a big factor in South Africa in getting rid of apartheid. Israel is an apartheid state. They have an open-air concentration camp in Gaza. But let's get off of that for a second. Let's just assume Israel is the nicest place in the world. Okay, it is for Israelis, but it's not for Palestinians. But let's say it's great, all right? Let's say Palestinians have full rights. They don't. I don't know where anybody stands on this. No matter where you stand on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, the fact is, the Democratic Party was screaming about Russian interference in our elections. Okay, well, let's get this straight. 28 states in this country, bipartisan support, and the anti-BDS was originally drummed up by a Democrat. 28 states now make it a criminal activity to boycott. There are some states, most of them, you have to sign a pledge. Do the Abby Martin thing.
Oh, she was invited to speak at Georgia Southern University.
Somewhere, yeah.
And she was disinvited because she refused to sign a pledge saying that she, wouldn't criticize.
You can't criticize Israel.
Yeah, and which is mind-boggling because she's known for this amazing film, Gaza Fights for Freedom.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was all about. Like, it had no.
That was the executive order. That was a result of a ridiculous executive order by President Shit-for-Brains. But the reality is, this is so comical to me. Russian interference. It's like Noam Chomsky said, nobody has more influence on American government than Israel. It's a comedy. Now, they may not side with us on issues that are important to us first, but boy, do we side with them. I mean, we went to war for them. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. But this anti-BDS bullshit, whether you agree with the BDS movement or not, a woman in Texas, when it first came about, lost her job. I think she was a private contractor teaching special ed. She was out of work for several months. The ACLU came in and sued. And most people are winning those cases, don't get me wrong. But, how do you like to be out of work for 6 months? You think they're going to give you back pay? It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Since when can we not criticize another country, especially for those of us who believe it is an apartheid state, believe they commit war crimes daily? I mean, why? You're telling me I can't say that, but I could sure say Putin's a monster.
Sure. Oh,
Netanyahu's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. The guy should be hung. He's been declared a war criminal. They've. I think the International Criminal Court. Oh, by the way, the two countries that aren't members of the International Criminal Court are the United States and Israel, because we are not allowed to be held accountable for our war crimes. I mean, it's so obscene. It's off the charts already. But that said, let's go to CNN, one of our favorite places.
Oh.
And poor Jim Acosta, when they removed his White House press badge. And man, the corporate media went to bat for him. They went gaga. They went to court. How dare they? That's a First Amendment right, freedom of the press. This is about a week or two before or after, I'm not sure because I haven't looked it up in a while. Mark Lamont Hill, also a contributor to CNN, spoke at the UN for Palestinian rights. And guess what happened to him? He got fired. Where was Jim Acosta backing his journalist friends? Yeah. Where was freedom of the press when Mark Lamont Hill got fired? Fortunately, Bill O'Reilly is no longer on the air where anybody gives a shit, but he's been such a fucking pain in the ass to academic freedom that fortunately Mark Lamont Hill is still a professor. And when we go through those, it's kind of like the Phil Donahue thing, the Ed Schultz thing, where any kind of progressive voice just gets crushed by a corporate media, and that's why we're doing this fucking podcast. And what else? What else do we have on our menu?
We've got Trump's executive order.
Okay, let's go into that.
Combating anti-Semitism.
Yeah, it's now a hate crime. You can't say Israel is a war crime state because it's a war crime.
Anti-Zionism.
It's a hate crime. I'm sorry, it's a hate crime.
Anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism.
Yeah. You can't criticize that government because then you're an anti-Semite. What a crock of shit. I'm voting for a fucking Jewish guy, Bernie Sanders. I love Bernie Sanders. Some of my best friends are Jewish. I mean, give me a fucking break. It's so ridiculous. But there you go. There you go again. There's that, that dichotomy. You can do anything you want so long as the United States approves. So the United States gets a lot of support of politicians from AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, and they just turn their head the other way when Palestinian kids get slaughtered in the street. When that idiot shit for brains moved the embassy to Jerusalem. This was part of the result of that. Highly recommended. Gaza Fights for Freedom, Abby Martin and the Empire Files. You watch that, rent it or buy it. I bought it because it was worth buying. I've been handing it out to a lot of people. The bottom line, men in wheelchairs. They're in wheelchairs because in prior incidents they had their legs blown off.
Children.
Shot dead. Children shot in the back. Some of them in the back. Yeah. Medics with their hands up with a clean white and red cross symbol on their jackets, running out to help people who have been wounded by snipers who are behind 15 feet of razor wire in a tank or wherever the fuck they're shooting from, laughing and joking, laughing about it, picking off people left and right.
Isn't there a hill that people can watch?
Yeah. Oh, that's the best part.
They take popcorn and soda up there.
They take out there and they watch
people
Air
being
Force
murdered.
Killed. Yeah. I mean, Air Force bomb people. It's unbelievable. You got to see this video. It's really important. You can't, Israel and the United States can no longer get away with the state propaganda. There's too much technology. It's not video clips edited together. This is the real thing. Okay, 6,000 rockets. At some point in the future, we're going to have Professor Norman Finkelstein on this podcast. We'll probably Skype it in, and I'm going to ask him to explain about the rockets, the so-called rockets, but are really Roman fucking candles, and and the tunnels. Because, it's amazing to me because I was such a supporter of Israel, such a supporter until maybe 5 years ago. 5 years ago, my wife said to me, she heard me go on a rant about the rockets, and she said, you really need to look into that subject. And because I've been so wrong in the past on so many fucking issues, I turned around and I did the research and was introduced to Norman Finkelstein's books, his works. And then I started going on YouTube, and I just started looking around, and holy shit, the evidence is there. It is obscene. It is state propaganda to think for a second that 6,000 rockets or 600 rockets that never kill anybody, that do like bare minimum damage to one or two structures, is somehow equal to bombing the shit out of defenseless people, shooting defenseless people. Those were innocent protesters. During that stupid fucking embassy thing, 60 people or something were killed. They had nothing. They were sending kites up with give me a fucking break. If you can't see a fucking kite on fire coming towards you, you're a moron. Okay? But that's what was going on. And that would continue. Plus, there's another great video. You can see it online for free. Anna Balsa did one called Life in, I think it's occupied Palestine. And it's a wonderful one because Anna's a lot calmer than I am, and she really does a great job. She goes through it, just how difficult it is for Palestinians to live in a society where soldiers can come into their house at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, midnight, wake up the whole house, grab a kid who threw a rock at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on his way home from school, take him in, keep him in custody for a couple of months. Just absolutely terrorize the whole Palestinian community. And she just does a great job because she shows you all the checkpoints, the differences in roads between Israeli roads and Palestinian roads, where our Palestinians are treated, how they can't even get to work because they got to go through 4 checkpoints. It's unbelievable, and it's real. And that's something that everybody needs to see. Enough of this bullshit. Bottom line, powerful countries, they have state propaganda machines, but thank God for technology because it's all been exposed for bullshit. We are bombing people in the Mideast for no fucking reason. Let's get that clear. Nobody in the Middle East, not Yemen, not Pakistan, not Syria. These people, none of them. Iraq, Iran. You could claim that they have terrorists in their countries, but there's no way that anybody here has been hurt by them. And the domestic terrorism in this country far outweighs anything Absolutely. Foreigners have done to us. So, and 911, no matter what you want to think, the reality was that was a response. It sucked and it was a horrible thing, but it was a response. We do that to them every fucking day. All right, so enough with the cursing. Jesus Christ, what a potty mouth. You really do have one. Where the hell did you get that from? Come on, I need you to talk some now. I need
I don't know. What are we doing?
Where are we going to here?
In 1966, African Americans in Mississippi participated in a sustained boycott of white-owned businesses because they wanted to get their the demands for racial justice, and which was drafted by the NAACP. So they boycotted white businesses in, and they had about 3 years of this before a group of white business owners sued the NAACP.
Imagine suing people because they won't come and shop in your store.
Yeah.
I mean, how fucking pathetic is that?
Religious that. And the case made its way through the lower courts and finally found its way to the Supreme Court, which ruled that the NAACP's boycott was, quote, composed of elements protected by the First Amendment, speech, assembly, and petition.
There you go. Isn't there another one? Isn't there something? Let me just see. Keep going on that one about this.
I don't
It's
really
not.
know.
I might have lost it, but anyway, anyway, keep going.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I should have kept my mouth shut. I probably threw you off.
Well, I mean, there's law here protecting your freedom of speech. The Supreme Court tells you have a right to protest, you have a right to boycott, as long as you're not doing it for economic gain, but for political reform. This is your right as an American citizen, and pretty much every state, on both Democrats and Republicans, are stripping those rights away.
Totally.
And the core of the First Amendment is to be able to criticize people in power.
Yes. Challenge
and
authority.
to challenge us so that we can change things and make America great. Not again, but make it great, for the first time.
You remember when, as parents, me and your mother told you, if your friends go walk off a cliff, are you going to join them? Don't join them off don't walk off a cliff with them. You challenge authority.
Right.
You have to challenge authority. I mean, you have to. If I tell you, I want you to go join that club, blah, 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 that's bullshit. You have every right in the world. I don't care if you're 10 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old. You have every right in the world to turn around and say, why?
Right.
Why? I'll never forget. I was in the Army for a week, okay? Your first birthday. Your first birthday I spent in Fort Knox. What happens is this kid in front of me, you got turns being a squad leader. And he gets in my face and he goes, Stella, I said, get the fuck away from me. And then right then I knew this is not going to fly. I could never take authority. I couldn't do it. And I'm just bad at it. I'm just bad at it. I accepted it playing football because I was young and stupid. But once I became a real adult, this was not an issue to me. I will question anything. So
yeah, I was the opposite. I was very play it by the book. I was a bootlicker. I was like, I want to get the best grades. I remember in school.
You did get the best grades.
I did because I did what I was told. There was one teacher, Mr. Blank, social studies, 7th grade. He tried so hard to get me not to look at the book to give answers, and I couldn't do it. I got a C in that class because I could
Good for him.
not. Yeah, and looking back now, he was fantastic. But yeah, I couldn't imagine giving an answer that came from my own brain. It had to come from a book. Yeah. Because I was so afraid to challenge authority or question anything. And again, that's the reason why I like Bernie, because he
gives you value.
He gives me value. Yeah. It's like, no, I don't want to vote for somebody who's going to make me work 3 jobs just to survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad I woke up, and I'm so glad that he's done that for me, because I don't want to be that person who's completely indoctrinated.
Yeah,
oh my God.
That's
and I'm ashamed that I was for so long in my life. When Bernie came around, I was 35?
Yeah, I can't believe it. My daughter's 40 now. I'm 63. This is so fucked up. All right, so I might have 5 years left. I really don't give a shit. I've accomplished pretty much everything I want. I just want to see Bernie get the nomination and then trash this orange menace, and maybe the Democrats will let him. Maybe they'll let him enact some programs that stall the move to the right. Maybe. But going back to that, the whole bit about education, I was always somebody who challenged. Once I went to college, first of all, I went to Minot, North Dakota, small school, to play football. But I wasn't interested in education. I was worried about getting my grades up, get that big C so I could, I mean, I was an idiot. I was a fuck up in high school, I was a fuck up in college. And I was fortunate enough to have an English teacher, actually an English teacher in Mrs. Miller in high school, who read Camus, The Stranger, and for some reason that moved me. Mother died today, well, maybe it was yesterday. That moved me, and it's always stood with me. And I used to write in between when we were going through a lot of family shit, long before you were a thought. When my mother and father divorced, and I wound up getting a lot of fights and wound up in a nut house for a week. That book always kept me writing. I was actually writing stories at night instead of going, and going right through the day and not going to school for a while. But then when I went to North Dakota, I was blessed by having a teacher that I owe anything I write, he gets credit for. Dave Gresham, who and his family's amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And I was fortunate enough to see someone so smart, and I had a guy in the class who was just as smart as a teacher, Michael Vaughn. And it was so impressive. I used to go back to my room half in shame because I didn't belong with these people. They were so much smarter than me. And the other half saying, boy, is it possible I can, do something with myself besides be a jerk off the rest of my life? So, down the road, I chose being a jerk off. But then I wound up coming back and getting interested and realized, what, this reading shit there's something to it. And, and that's what really structured everything for me. That's why I got these dopey books published. It's, it is what it is. Education is important. And it's not to make a dollar. That should be the last thing you go to school for. Do it for the experience, do it for the people you meet, do it for the inspiration you'll get, and, move on. That's it. Yeah. So we're going to close out. But before we close out, we're going to advise you that we will have these sites that we want, Abby Martin, Anna Balsa,
you can
Intercept.
Look under the video on the YouTube page. We'll list all of our recommendations for independent
Jimmy
media.
Dore, Joe Rogan. Yeah. All these websites.
Todd Kalinske.
The Useful Idiots, Matt Taibbi,
Katie Halper,
Matt, Aaron Matei. I forget what his is. I forget what it's called. Pushback, I think it's with Aaron Matei. There's a great one with him and his father. His father was a journalist. I mean, it's brilliant. It's really good. Anyway, what we say, and Norman Finkelstein, of course. I took a class with Norman last, I guess, from September to December. The man is brilliant. He's a great ball breaker. Oh my God, is he a good ball breaker? He could be a ball breaker. He could exist in a locker room and an after-hour joint. And the greatest thing, it was one of the funniest moments, is I drove him home a couple of times, and one night we used to drop Moran off. This woman in her 80s is brilliant. She was an adjunct at Columbia. And when we stopped he walked her across the street, this is from Grand Army Plaza. She lived near there. And he comes back and he says, "Can you wait a minute? I have to urinate." So he does what he has to do. He gets back in the car. I look at him and I say, "That's the difference between a street guy and a full professor." He goes, "What?" I go, "Urinate and take a piss." Well, Norman is great. He's really great. And he's brilliant. All right. So that's it. We're going to wrap up. We don't have our exit music. We're not going to dance. And Anthony's actually going to fill all this bullshit in at the end with all the stuff that we need. Thank you for watching. We'll be back.
Thank you.
And one more thing I forgot to say before is, how about all these big shots with all the money they have, and they all go to the Cayman Islands, and so they don't have to pay taxes. Where us poor slobs that work for nothing have to go and pay taxes. How do you like that? What else? I wanted to say something else and I forgot. Let me see. Give me a break. I'm 86 years old. I forget now and then. But I think that's about everything. That's probably more. There's probably more. But like I said, I'm 86. I forget. But I say what comes to my mind. And again, I say, go Bernie. God help us. God be with us. And may you win. I pray so hard for you to win. I love you, Bernie. Ciao.